been interpreted by many courts to be a function that may be at the exercise of the county auditor's discretion, and it is no more than a mere imposition of a ministerial duty. And being such a duty, I think it's well settled in Texas that a writ of mandamus may not lie to compel the performance of such an act.
Do you think that this particular case will help to clarify the state law regarding contracts made with public officials?
I hope so. Actually, the cases in some ways are conflicting now, and I hope it will make it more clear.
The situation, not court decisions.
Right now, do you feel that white people now are afraid of busing?
I think that the whites are afraid of busing blacks into their neighborhood, because they certainly aren't afraid of busing, because they initially installed the busing system to bus us to the one school that we had to go to. Because I am only 29 years old, and I have been bused, and I was bused from the first grade to the 12th grade. And there was no issue there. And the whites were paying for the busing.
Anytime you phase into production from development, under the best of circumstances, you're going to have problems. It's ideal, of course, to go through development, to have a piece of hardware that you can actually test and see that it works, or fly, if you will, and see that it works before you now release to production. And that's what we mean by this. But even when you release these items to production, after you've tested it and you've known that it works, you're still going to have some problems as you now phase into production. You're going to have benchmarks that we have to find ourselves meeting as we go into the phase into production.
I'd like you to outline to the folks anything you feel that our attitude or our philosophy this year is going to be different from last, and what you think is going to be the new Cowboys in 1970.
Well, in all seriousness, Lance, I think you're going to see a big change. In fact, I've moved into guard, as everybody probably knows, but our running game is going to be a lot more powerful. Calvin's running tremendously. Craig's throwing the ball well, and so is Roger. And I know that you all have been working extremely hard on your pass routes. They've simplified your pass offense some, so I think you're going to see a different type of Cowboy club.
I think so, too. I might outline a couple of things in detail that we're doing different this year. Of course, we seem to be saying this every year, but all you can do when you've met with the disappointments that we have as a team is just to pick yourself up off the floor and just try a little bit harder. And I think this year we have done several things, as Ralph outlined, a couple of that are going to make us a lot different ball club, I think. Well, number one, we have simplified our offense down to where we feel we will get the execution that we've lacked sometimes in critical situations last year that have hurt our offense. And I think this is going to be defined in several ways. Number one, we have cut down our assignments in our running game, and also our pass patterns have been simplified down to where we only have around 10 or 11 basic routes. I think this is going to be something that's going to add to our execution. In addition to this, I think that we'll find that we're going to have a little more leadership among the ball players this year than we had last year. We're going to have more dedication than we had last year, even though we tried last year harder than the year before that. The main thing that we want this to lead up to is that when we get into a big playoff game or any big game during the season is that we're going to win. And we're going to have a positive attitude about ourselves this year. And so to all you fans, I know we were fooling around and enjoying ourselves, but in all seriousness, this is about the only fooling around we intend to do during camp, and I think you can look for a new Cowboy team this year.
More and more citizens of Fort Worth seem to be becoming concerned over situations they say are prevalent here in city parks. especially between the hours of midnight and 7 a.m. Park and Recreation Board Chairman Charles Ringler called attention to the fact that, as far as he was concerned, there were large numbers of youngsters sleeping in the park overnight. Many of these young people, according to Ringler, are homeless transients from other cities. This is the way Ringler put it to the board this morning.
I know I'm fed up, and I'm sure every member on this board is fed up with the conditions that exist at our Trinity Park shelter and also in other areas that have not been mentioned in the past. We've been a concerned board. The City Council is aware of the action that we have tried to take. The Police Department has been aware of the action that we've tried to take. We've had a little progress, but not enough.
Ringler and board members were obviously upset over certain reports of widespread use of narcotics and unruly behavior. Some residents have been offended by such things as they say as nude bathing in duck ponds and water fountains. The board passed a resolution calling for an emergency ordinance this next Monday for the Fort Worth City Council, which would close over 7,300 acres of city parks from the hours of midnight to 7 a.m. We asked some of the young people what they thought about the curfew. Do you at any time sleep here in the park?
I do all the time.
You mean every night you sleep here?
Every night I'm not run off.
So this is just kind of your home then, huh?
Kinda.
What do you think about the possibility of having a curfew here in the park?
Well, the curfew, I have anything against it. I have nothing against it, but there's so many youths down here that has no place to go. There are people that are traveling through here that perhaps want to set over. What are you going to do, run them out too?
Art Sinclair, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.
I think unless each of us remove this color from our eyes and start treating everyone as human beings, the situation will never be solved by any court decision. It won't be solved by any busing. It's going to have to be solved by people who are interested enough to realize that these things that they are doing to black people nowadays are just inhuman. They are just inhuman. They violate the Constitution, although we realize the Constitution wasn't written for blacks. In this day, blacks were property, not people. But something's going to have to be done.
Primarily, it was upon a statute that states that there cannot be a transfer of surplus funds during a fiscal year that would increase the total budget of the county. I think the record in this case reflects that it would increase the budget. Secondly, the same statute also declares that the county auditor must certify that there are sufficient funds on hand to pay any obligations, such as, in this case, a pay wage increase.
Mr. Thompson, what is your reaction to the ruling this morning?
Well, I'm downhearted, really, and I'm disappointed, and I'm sure all the employees are going to be disappointed too.
Do you feel that you'll appeal this immediately?
We will have to discuss this. We will have an executive board meeting, and then we'll have a union board meeting with the members, and we will decide then whether we will appeal the case with advice from our attorneys.
And the probability of appeal will be based on what the entire membership of the union thinks?
With advice from our attorneys.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion. The motion is that we appoint Clarence Jones, Sheriff of Dallas County, for the interim period, effective date 10 a.m., September the 1st, 1970.
Second motion. Discussion.
Judge, I have previously made remarks, and those remarks I repeated, but I recall to your attention at this time. These will explain my reasons for abstaining.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
I vote aye. Carried and so ordered.